Alright, so here's the motorcycle, all set, everything ready. But essentially what happened was that at 5 in the morning, when this was all kitted out and all ready to depart and everything was perfect, it started pouring heavily. And of course now the sun is out in the afternoon when it's too late to go anywhere. But I just wanted to show you what I've done with this bike. So what I've decided to do is leave these Kriega soft panniers on the bike. And what I've done is I've kind of leashed them. You know, it's not exactly foolproof, but I've kind of locked it to the pannier, essentially the pannier holders or whatever they might be called, the pannier racks. I've kind of locked it, and you know, it'll have to be a very determined person to steal a bag. And usually these motorcycles are parked in the hotel complex and stuff like that. So I've done that on both sides. Now these bags are empty, but if I want to take out something, I can take it out from the, you know, I pull it out. Essentially I'm going to keep a packed bag and put it inside this, and then take out the bag and leave the panniers on the bike, because it's, although it's not too much of a headache, but still when you're getting ready to leave, there's a huge checklist, and anything that you can reduce really helps. So I've done that to the bike. I'm not going to leave the tank bag, but since it's standing in my house complex, this is the SW Motec tank bag, which comes out with just a click like this. So wait, this is not a great demo for this bag. Actually this is a bit difficult sometimes, but what you have to do is pull this. Wow, it's actually not coming out, so I have to figure out what's going on with this. This is not supposed to turn into this kind of demo, but somehow it has. Okay, so if you have a SW Motec, just remember you might have this issue where it's come off. Now you need both hands, but basically it comes off. It's a tank bag and it has a lock at the bottom, so it kind of clicks into place like this, and then you pull this apparently with two hands, and then it comes off. I've also mounted this thing, it's called SP Connect, which is basically like a quad lock kind of thing. So it's, you just slide your phone in and turn it, and it works absolutely fine. And kind of there's a vibration module on top of this, and it's quite nice. You can see that there's like this handle which you can angle it, you can keep it on the left side, right side, whatever. Phone also you can twist to the right side or left side, so it provides a fair amount of flexibility in how you want to mount the navigation, the phone on which you are doing Google Maps and navigation and stuff like that. This is a USB charger, so you know, usually this phone is plugged in here. There are two slots, so you can plug in something else if you like. I can't really think of what I'd do. You see these mirrors are really nice because they're actually like a RAM mount, and then they have a like a lock, and then you can loosen this lock and adjust the mirrors, and they don't break off if the bike falls or whatever, something like that. It's kind of fairly relatively indestructible mirrors, so good for off-roading. But I find them fairly flexible even for when you're traveling on road. They're very flexible because you can adjust them in multiple ways, and they're quite large, much better than the standard mirrors. So much more like offers a great amount of flexibility in how you position the mirrors and how you see them. So that's really it on the bike. Of course, the rest of it, I mean, I have these Denali lights which are very, very useful if you're setting out early in the morning. So very, very useful, and quite bright, especially when it's on high beam. It's a long throw, and it's also a fairly wide throw, and really, really helpful, particularly if you're going over bad roads really early in the morning. On a motorcycle, it's, you know, really, really necessary, almost a safety feature, really, to think of it. And so that's really it. I mean, I have a center stand which doesn't come as standard on the kit. I don't know why these motorcycles, it really should, but anyway, I've got a center stand, I've got bark busters. So as you can see here, bark busters, these things which have, you know, basically have this metal thing to protect your hands and also to protect the levers in case The bike falls, of course. On this side there's no lever. There is a lever, but it's a parking brake, but this is a DCT automatic, so you don't need that. And by the way, this bike, I've lived with it for almost 5 years now, and I can't tell you what a brilliant bike it is. It's just absolutely fabulous, because what happens is when a new bike comes on the marketplace, you tend to want to explore and look it up, and like anything new and shiny is obviously very appealing, so you want to go after the new Tiger 1200 or whatever it is. I test ride a lot of the bikes, and they have a lot going for them, but I must say this bike, particularly the 2018 actually, because it has ride by wire also, and a lithium ion battery as opposed to the 2017. So I think the 2018 bikes before the adventure sports, so this is not the adventure sports, this is the Africa Twin, the regular version, which came out in 2018 in India. DCT is one of the best bikes and unique in its class, because it's so easy to ride. Even for somebody who's relatively inexperienced in off-road riding, it gives you a huge amount of confidence even on such a heavy bike. You have to be you can't be an absolute novice, because the weight can intimidate you, so you have to kind of know your basics. But I did one course, and I've done some mountain cycling where the principles are relatively similar, but of course this is a total different ball game. But once you do all that, this bike, I'm telling you, the engine, the Honda reliability and the smoothness and refinement, and is just a different kettle of fish. So basically I'm very happy with this bike, and even if I get something else, I wouldn't sell this bike. I'll keep this because it's unique. It's a DCT, it's a beautiful twin cylinder with some pretty interesting feel in the engine. I really enjoy it. While cruising, I enjoy it in the city. It's so easy to ride, fairly well balanced. It is heavy, I would say that's the only thing, and a little bit tall. So, but it's okay for me because I'm just under 6 and works very well for me. So I kind of really like this, and doesn't ask for a lot of maintenance. So that's the other thing. I think I put something else that I can't quite recall. These crash bars, of course, which have been tested. The bikes, once walking speed just spilled over, which was an interesting experience. But picking up the bike, but you need to have a technique. Oh yeah, of course, this. So I put this SW Motec kind of tail rack. So this here is basically an SW Motec pannier rack, but on top of that you also have a Kriega adapter, which allows you to mount these Kriega OS 22s that I've got here, which are completely waterproof and very rugged and very, very nice. Except that taking them on and off, actually it's not too bad. Most people would just take them on and off, but I've decided to do most of my traveling with I've got a Kriega roll pack 40 liter that I'll just put here. I don't want the panniers at all, because they do add a little bit of weight to the rear, and which is not in the center, so it kind of becomes a little bit bulky. So I've decided to do that, and these I just keep for light sundries. Like sometimes your sneakers don't fit in your luggage, so just put your sneakers in here, just put some stuff that you might need to access quickly there, that kind of thing. But these act, if they're empty, they're very light, then they're very convenient. If you go shopping or something, you don't need to worry. B, if the bike does spill, if you're going off-roading or something, then it does help to have something soft this side. Not sure that's the intended purpose that Kriega had, but so that's it. Anyway, I was ready with this bike to travel to Bombay, all the way to Bombay. The first stop was going to be Jaipur, where I was going to meet fellow rider Shane. Of course, he's a much more experienced and expert rider, but he was offering to come out somewhere near Kotputli on the Jaipur highway and meet me there and all that. But all those plans kind of fizzled out because the rain was very heavy in the morning at 5 a.m. And that's one of the problems with riding in India is, so I've ridden in Ireland when it was raining heavily, and while you get wet, you don't really get dirty because the water is always clean. Even the puddles are clean, even if you splash through them. The second thing is, people drive sensibly. There's not a lot of water pooled on the roads, but conditions here turn very dangerous very, very quickly, particularly if there's rain, and people start driving like madly, as if it's not rain's not water, it's like acid or something, and it burn them and they will get out. I don't know what happens to people, so people just drive very dangerously in the rain. So that's why I just decided not to. It's not a fun experience, especially if you're traveling highways and stuff like that. I guess if it's, you know, uninhabited, smaller roads and somewhere in the interiors, it's not bad. But anyway, so this is the bike and it's ready, but now I'm considering whether I should take it for a smaller ride somewhere, maybe Morni Hills or something like that tomorrow morning, early tomorrow morning, because the forecast isn't great for the next couple of days. And also when I arrived in Chandigarh, I realized that it's actually very, very warm and very humid, so riding would have been a far worse experience than I thought it might have been. I was imagining that, you know, Chandigarh doesn't really get very hot during the monsoons, usually, but this season apparently it's infernal, absolutely, and so is Delhi. So I'll be passing through Jaipur and stuff like that. It might actually not be a good idea to do that. So just do some small rides here, keep the bike here in Chandigarh for a while, and maybe when the weather turns a little bit better in October, either take the bike back to Mumbai and then, you know, go to Chikmagalur and Uti and all that kind of stuff, or just keep the bike here and then take 5 or 6 days and just go up to Ladakh, or maybe to, you know, at least Dharamshala, or maybe even to Landor and stuff like that. So those are the two options available to me. So let me see what I decide. Right, so here we are at Morni Hills, which is a locality not very far from Chandigarh, and I rode up about 40 minutes to reach the base of the hills and then climbed the hill right to the top, which is actually, it was a pretty interesting ride because it's fairly steep curves, it's small roads going up, and because of the rain and stuff like that, there was a little bit of gravel, you know, pebbles, stones, small landslides, nothing major of course. And of course it's a well-tarred road and the road isn't bad at all, but you have to be careful in sections. So it was an interesting ride going from, you know, the highway in Chandigarh, which was really fast. You can go really fast there and it's a straight line, and then suddenly coming up here and kind of, so it's good practice for a rider and it's quite enjoyable. The weather is actually quite nice. It has been pretty warm lately in Chandigarh, but yesterday it rained, so today the weather is quite cool, especially if you're riding in the breeze. It's absolutely fine. And there is the Africa Twin parked by there's a spot here when you get to the top of the hill where there's a Durga Mandir, and right next to that is an empty spot. There's not much traffic, maybe 1 or 2 motorcycles, but that's broadly it. So it's been an interesting ride. Really beautiful scenery here actually. If you look, you could be 1,000 years ago, because there's nothing here that suggests the intervention of man, that there's a road just by the side of these beautiful hills. It's called Morni Hills for a reason, I guess. You can hear some birds, but those aren't peacocks. So very gorgeous view, looks really lovely. Completely worth it to come up for this ride, and in good time as well. I left at about 6 a.m. and now it's time to go back down, face the traffic a little bit. I think prior to 8 a.m. it's not going to be too terrible, and go get some breakfast somewhere at a coffee shop. There's a Blue Tokai not far from my place in Chandigarh, so that's where I'm headed now. But what a gorgeous view, and what a lovely ride. This is highly recommended, especially for riders who are looking to practice their skills and stuff. It's actually not a bad place to come and kind of enjoy things. So headed back down now, and see you guys later.